Today's News Talk, TNT Radio.
All right. No stranger to the program. Terry Wolf is joining us, wolfpox.com, winterchristian.substack.com. He's got a number of books. He's writing yet another one. He's been seen by millions on TikTok. Alex Jones has played his videos. He was recently a guest on James Dellingpole's podcast. How are you doing, Terry? And tell us about your appearance on Dellingpole's podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. This is an interesting one. I did an interview on a Substack, a written interview. James Dellingpole noticed me on there. I guess he followed the guy. And so he invited me on to basically talk about my interpretation of the Green Rider of Revelation. James Dellingpole is a Christian. He has written a book called Watermelons, which is about the green movement and how they're green on the outside but red on the inside. It's a communist ploy and stuff. So for him, it was a very big, a very fitting sort of putting the pieces together of this puzzle that he's been working on himself. And my interpretation of Revelation helped him out apparently. And so we talked about that. We talked about quite a few things. It was a great episode. I think it'll be available for the public probably in a week or two or something like that. It's behind a paywall right now, but yeah, I'm excited for people to be able to check that out. James Dellingpole was a Breitbart editor. He's won a bunch of awards. He's a cool guy. I was really excited to be able to talk with him.
It's cool to see our comrades in arms here appearing on all these different platforms. And you know what else happened over the weekend? Apparently, I almost didn't know that it happened, was the Super Bowl. I don't care at all pretty much for sports anymore. I see it as bread and circuses. There's a great clip I rewatched over the weekend. Someone published a Bill Cooper, right? Behold a Pale Horse. Some people say the government killed him. He was like the original Alex Jones, they say, and Bill Cooper was saying, think about it. Why do they pay excessive millions to, sports players? It doesn't make any logical sense. I forget the explanation that he had, that it was to create divisiveness with the citizenry. I'm not sure, but I'm sure a portion of Canadians are also big into the Super Bowl. Any thoughts on the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I think Canada gets wrapped up in American sports because we basically grew up watching it. We don't have the equivalent here, so we're tuned into American sports. And I've heard people talk about the Super Bowl a little bit, but actually what I've seen more of is people finding out how small the Super Bowl's ratings are compared to other events, sporting events around the world. And so that's kind of an interesting thing, because I think this year they broke records. They say it's the most watched television program of all time or something like that, 123 million, I think, which sounds amazing. It sounds very impressive. But when you look up the statistics, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what global sports like the soccer, the Winter Games, the Olympics, and to everyone's surprise, cricket. Now, I don't know if you know anybody who watches cricket, but apparently the Cricket World Cup got 2.6 billion viewers, as opposed to the Super Bowl's 120 some million. Obviously, American football is not played around the world, so you wouldn't expect people around the world to tune into it. And the World Cup of Soccer has 5 billion viewers when it's on, which is just staggering. And so, and then like the NBA is like 17 million. So that's like a tenth of the Super Bowl. So this is the levels of magnitude, and really helps, I think, Americans and Canadians who are tuned into that to realize how small these events actually are on the global scale. And maybe there's something people can learn from that.
I got a note on Bill Cooper. It says that he called football simulated combat, keeping the best of the manly men preoccupied instead of fighting against the NWO. And I did see a few clips of, I think they were Mexican Americans in the US watching the game, I guess the 49ers, and two separate video occasions where I guess the 49ers lost. Look, I really don't even care. I'm not even following this stuff. But one of the men, they smashed the television in faint like anger, and I'm just thinking like it's like they're programming you like a lemon. There's no way you can get me to care enough to smash. Like, oh, my team. Like, who cares? This is just a game. Anyways, you had also an interesting story on there was this boycott regarding Tesla and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, obviously the Super Bowl in some ways is actually famous more for its ads and advertising than it is for the actual playing. I mean, it's been that way since I was a kid. And a tech CEO from named Dan O'Dowd, who's a very fierce enemy of Elon Musk, he's been using the Super Bowl ad spots to try to boycott Tesla, to call for a boycott of Tesla. So it's a CNN report. Here's a quote from this piece. Last year, the group produced one ad showing Tesla vehicles it implied were using the full self-driving feature. In a series of video tests by the Dawn Project, the cars run over a child-sized dummy on a school crosswalk and a fake baby in a stroller. 2 months after, this is a quote, 2 months after our ad aired, a child was hit by while coming off a school bus. Dan O'Dowd told CNN in a phone interview, "It's completely intolerable. Why would Tesla not turn off its self-driving features on roads that it knows it's not safe on? This one thing will save lives and cost Tesla absolutely nothing." They say they have hundreds of hours of video showing the self-driving features of Tesla malfunctioning and not being usable on different road conditions. So I thought that was interesting. Somebody would actually bother, because these are the most expensive ads in the world. They would use that to try to create a boycott of Tesla. I hate Tesla, and I think self-driving is needs to be regulated and basically banned. But so this is an interesting one for me, that Super Bowl ads would get involved.
Yeah, and I dislike the whole EV Tesla movement because again, it's long term. The end game is the 15-minute city. So yeah, I've seen people like Mike, what's his name? Mike Maloney, Gold Silver, does great work. He's got a Tesla. I saw John Bush's got a Tesla. Curtis Stone, who I met yesterday here, and our book with a Canadian farmer. I'll see if I can get him on to sit here with me later this week. But he's got a Tesla, but for him it works. He says because he's got a solar farm. He's got a bunch of solar panels, and just to use them in his local town that has got a low population, it works. But if you're in like a big urban area where there's a lot of traffic, it's not really going to work. But again, the end, I guess anything to take down the algorithm ghetto, Terry. So and I think they are dangerous as well. They don't do well with the cold. There are so many things. I don't know how they're going to get this algorithm ghetto going, Terry. It's time for our headlines. We'll be right back.
Now's a good time to break the big news.
TNT Radio News.
For TNT, this is James O'Neill. Representative Elise Stefanik, known for her support of former President Donald Trump, has filed a bar complaint against New York Attorney General Letitia James, criticizing her handling of the civil fraud case against Trump. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron has expressed concern over Israel's further military actions in Rafah, southern Gaza, where around 1 million displaced Palestinian civilians are hosted.
The common housefly, caught in the clutches of the spider's web. Every move it makes just makes matters worse. Then, dinner time.
Feast on the captivating stories, videos, and helpful information on our website.
Whoa.
Dinner's ready.
Oh, man.
Escape is futile.
Just one more video.
Get stuck in our web.
TNTRadio.live.
We're having a fun time in the chat. Someone was saying, did Hoodway take cash with him? I think he has deep pockets. I could only wish that I had deep pockets. And they're also saying Bob Moran was recently on Dellingpole's podcast, so you're in good company there. Terry, and people commenting on cricket, how it's massive, and they're saying, "Come on, Hervé, you deep down, you really do care about men kicking balls into a hole." Yeah, no. Someone says that the NEV in the chat says the cricket and Australian rules football went all corporate and woke, so I couldn't care less if I never see a corporate game ever again. Photon in the chat says modern day bread and circuses. NEV also says that the best thing people can do is boycott and send them broke. All right, yeah, and somebody, let's jump back to Canada for a moment. We all months ago, it was the big news that you had this Nazi in the Canadian Parliament that they were honoring, and now apparently Canada is refusing to extradite the wanted Nazi. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is basically a follow-up. The Canadian government is declining and refusing to send this guy to Russia. The Russia Prosecutor General's office wants him to be extradited, and this is because Nazis apparently their entire lives they have to be on the run. There is no statute of limitations on their punishment. The Canadian government is declining Russia's warrant for the SS veteran Yaroslav Hunka. That's the guy, citing the lack of an extradition treaty between the two countries. So, this 98-year-old, he's almost immovable, sitting in a wheelchair basically, and he was honored with a standing ovation in the Canadian Parliament last year, and basically the Canadian government apologized as if it was the fault of all Canadians, even though it was basically Chrystia Freeland and her suspicious Nazi connections that she has with her whole history and her family. And so this is an interesting follow-up where now they're not, if he's a known SS member, he should be extradited according to the rules there. I don't think I particularly like that rule, but if that's how it works, now they're refusing to extradite him, which kind of adds another layer to the story where it's like they're not even, giving him up. They honor him. They knew beforehand. They vetted him. It wasn't really an accident. I don't believe that they didn't know he was a Nazi, but now they're not extraditing him either. So it seems like they're just sheltering, protecting this guy.
And, we look at the history, Operation Paperclip, so many Nazis came to the West, into NATO, into NASA, Werner von Braun, Chrystia Freeland's, was it grandfather, Nazi was just discovered that German Foreign Minister Baerbock's grandpa, I think, was hardcore Nazi. And then meanwhile, these same people want to call people like me fascist or Nazi or neo-fascist. When I could play the Holocaust card. My grandfather was for 6 months prisoner of the Croatian Nazi regime, which was basically under the German Nazi regime. And so the West is full of them. And it's sad, really, that we have this cancer in Western politics. And there was also this statement from Ambassador Stepanov, quote, "Here's the litmus test for Canada's covering up of Nazism. Will the criminal be punished, or will he continue to live out his comfortable retirement years in the country that is so proud of its legal standards?" I did want to get your thoughts. You've been writing some good pieces over at your Substack, winterchristian.substack.com. And one that we hadn't discussed was published just yesterday. Context of the Alex Jones, David Icke, and Elon Musk debates. And so I watched that, and apparently Elon Musk called in to Alex Jones's show with David Icke. I mean, it's unmistakable that is his voice, and I think they're friendly enough that they can, they're able to contact each other and get them on. And David Icke spoke here yesterday. And again, from my view, I was kind of sucked into the world of Alex Jones because of a lot of the stuff that he was talking about that were true, right? 9/11 and things like that, but also because he had said he was Christian. But then you see that he continues to blaspheme. A real Christian's not going to continually, maybe people make mistake, but consistently blaspheme, use curse words, promote Gnosticism, anti-Christian ideology. And so, David Icke yesterday was basically talking about like samsara and all this sort of new agey type stuff, which really doesn't float my boat. But tell us about your piece, how you saw that discussion, and what's going on with the mammies, the mainstream alternative media.
Yeah, so if people just sort of wade into the middle of this, I don't think they'll understand what's going on, why David Icke and Alex Jones would be arguing with each other, and how Elon Musk fits into the picture. So I wrote this Substack to explain what's going on here. A lot of people don't even realize Alex Jones still does broadcasts and isn't on the air and stuff like that. But so basically, David Icke has been trying to present himself as being the true alternative media, and is created a label called MAM, which stands for mainstream alternative media, to basically smear anybody who refuses to go all the way like he does. He theoretically, he's because he's willing to talk about Elon Musk being a fraud, and he sort of hints at Donald Trump being controlled opposition and these things, and he lumps Alex Jones in with the mainstream alternative media, even though he hosts his videos on Band.video and obviously profits from that relationship. And so Alex Jones was very upset. He wanted to invite him on to try to prove to David Icke and to David Icke's followers that he wasn't a MAM. He wasn't one of these sellout corporate, people. And David Icke basically brushed off everything he was saying and refused to, acknowledge his talking points, that they were basically agreeing on all these different things. And it got really weird because by the end, they were hosting the whole talk simultaneously on InfoWars, but also on Twitter Spaces or X Spaces. And so Elon Musk calls in to the program under a pseudonym. Adrian Dittman is what he calls himself. He's got a fake account. And, it's clearly his voice. He talks the same way. He's not trying to basically hide it at all, except for denying that it's him. And then they get into a debate between David Icke and Elon Musk, where it's one of the most strange discussions, because in theory, these guys are all part of this alternative media landscape. They're all these heroes of free speech, and they're all these rebels against the establishment. But you have Elon Musk, who's a military contract, eugenicist, transhumanist. David Icke is calling him out for wanting to plant chips in people's brains and using DARPA research to do this. And he's right, of course. But then Elon Musk turns around and says, well, you, in your own claims, say that the entire world is a simulation, that real life, what we call real life, is a simulation, that it's not real, that we're trapped in this prison in our consciousness, and that the only way to escape is to die, and that you're basically advocating for a genocide of humanity in order to liberate mankind from this prison we call life. And so basically the argument is, why not give people brain chips and hook them into the simulation and unlock our hidden potential powers, basically hack the video game that we are living in called reality, and max it out and see what we can get away with, instead of going with the Gnostic, mystic, meditation and transcendental side of things that David Icke might push to escape the prison through a psychic system of some kind of mysticism. And, Alex Jones is sitting in the middle of these two crazy, evil sounding people, just sort of laughing and not taking a side, because he wants to be this figurehead that can, be the big tent that everybody rallies within, and it's his show. But he's not taking a side. He's not calling out either of their ridiculous talking points. And so I had to write about it, because to me, it just struck me as exposing all three at once as being frauds. I mean, Alex Jones has been ranting about brain chips and AI and all these things for as long as David Icke has, basically. But now that he relies on X. He relies on Elon Musk's platform to get his message out because he was unbanned. Now suddenly he doesn't, he's very reasonable with what Elon Musk is saying. He's basically playing devil's advocate there. David Icke is rightfully pointing out the hypocrisy there. And meanwhile, Icke's message is no better because he's a Gnostic. That's a classic Gnostic view, is that life is a prison created by evil spirits to trap us in a materialistic plane of existence, and that death is the way to liberate people. So just an insane conversation if you can actually unravel and understand what's happening.
I mean, it's when you speak of Alex Jones, it's a bit of a Faustian bargain, right? Deal with the devil. I've had Russian affiliated news like in Telegram, Geopolitics Live, which is part of Sputnik, trying to get in contact with me to cross post. They would post my Geopolitics and Empire stuff on their big channel and vice versa. And I'm like, even though that would help me grow, and for potential new subscribers, I'm like, no, I want to be non-affiliated. I want to go with what I think is the truth, even if it's going to cost me money. And this is that deal with the devil that a lot of alt media is making now. Well, if I talk a little bit less about this, I'll get these benefits, stay on this platform. So yeah, that's and there are people listening that would have different views. They'll disagree with Terry and with myself, because Terry and I are Christians, but I just feel the thing with David Icke, he seems to be the most accurate beyond Musk and Jones, except for that 10% where he's saying our salvation comes from this new age Gnostic satanic. In my opinion, I think it's it's theosophy. They asked him yesterday, who are your influences? And he doesn't say. He says it's anyone who is open to the truth. And it's like, come on, all of us have people that influenced our thought process, and he won't say it. So he gets it right on a lot of the material world stuff, but as soon as he gets to the spiritual, I think that's where, and for Christians, that's like that spells doom, because ultimately you're sending people to eternal hell, directing them away from God, Christ, and the Bible. And at the end of the day, not even this new world order stuff matters, because we're all going to die, whether in the algorithm ghetto or not. And the real important thing is eternity. Where are you going to be for eternity? Any last thought on that before we jump to break, Terry?
Yeah, well, David Icke actually was a major topic with James Delingpole too. That was an interesting thing. He had a big conversation, a debate live on a stage in Liverpool or something like that. And they were having an argument about Gnosticism and about where everything stands. So this is a bigger conversation that's happening.
And I think we need to be discussing this more. I think very few people are talking about what you and I are bringing up, because it's difficult to, constructively criticize some of the folks that we grew up being influenced by, right? Alex Jones and David Icke and Elon Musk. Yes, he's doing some good things, but ultimately it's a long game, and those good things that he's doing now are going to facilitate some of the bad things that he wants to do down the line. All right, it's time for our break. Wolfpox.com is Terry's website. You can check out his books, Fire in the Rabbit Hole, among others, winterchristian.substack.com. We'll be right back.
De-weaponizing weather with reality and perspective.
The cyclone that's in the north of Australia.
This is the Hervoy Moritz Show on today's News Talk, TNT Radio.
All right, we are back with Terry Wolf, and I lost my spot in the chat. Someone was posting some interesting stuff. Here it is. Someone, FNL channel says, I heard Elon and Alex are merging their act with brain chips. Makes me sick, to be honest, to see these people for exactly who and what they are. One thing you mentioned in your article, Terry, that an unknown Israeli company designed the banned.video and donated it to Alex Jones. I'd never heard that. Is there any source for that?
Yeah, actually, there is a source. I found out about that through Brendan O'Connell. He has a YouTube channel that he's been very vocally trying to expose Alex Jones. And I couldn't find you the source myself, but he played an actual clip, a video clip of Alex Jones talking about how he got banned video. And he said that, and it was sort of just like a mumbling aside thing. He wasn't making a big deal about it, but he did say that there was an Israeli firm of some kind that had designed ban.video and basically just handed it to him after he got banned from everywhere and said, here, you can use this to host your videos. So that's right from Alex Jones's mouth. I saw it on Brendan O'Connell's channel. I couldn't dig that up if I wanted to, but I saw it. It's out there.
That is fascinating. And yeah, we were discussing during the break just my experience at the Greater Reset and Politico. And again, I respect everyone. There's no one, I don't dislike anyone or hate anyone. But again, we have our own religions, right? And faiths. And I think, again, what's not being discussed is that in the alt media, there is this anti-Christian faith now. And a lot of the speakers now are talking about let's say the guru stuff and spirituality and God and all these different things, which I don't know, for me at the end of the day, it's a lot of mumbo jumbo. It's like eat, pray, love type stuff, and it's not conclusive. It's just wishy-washy, and it's just like I listen to them and I'm still like, I don't understand what they're talking about. It's a lot of it's almost like Baha'i type stuff where you're putting together your own religion, you're piecing it together from all these theosophic New Age Gnostic things, and ultimately it's the conclusion is like you are a god and you can do whatever you want. And
we've talked about oneness as a major movement, the oneness religious principle, the interfaith movement, as it's also called. Theosophy doesn't call itself a religion, but it is a study of interfaith, interreligious studies designed to show that they all have this mystical layer that connects them, even if they disagree on the outward principles and the, you worship Jesus, I worship this guy, I follow him as my guide or whatever. Theosophy is the movement that tries to say, no, they're all connected behind the scenes on the mystical level. So once you become a mystic, then you do have this oneness. And so that's why they want to shed off all the Bible and these religious texts in particular and churches and stuff like that and merge from behind the scenes. And one of the things I think I'm going to write about in my Substack is how we are always warning about a one world government, which is the political and economic side of things, but nobody's warning about the one world religion that has to basically go with it, or else there'll still be all these dividing lines. And once you see it that way, we can't just unify blindly into this, big hive mind that we all agree on the same religious mystical level. And then we join in. It's the same thing. It's a new age religion for a new world order, as far as I'm concerned. And the new age is the age of Aquarius that I keep writing about and trying to warn about. So, and the Green Movement is sort of the driving force, I think, on the political level, but it also ties in there too, where it's sort of an earth worship religion, and it's tied into this death cult. It's all what I call the Green World Order for that reason. And I would say that ties directly in with this Politico crazy article that you found that blows my mind.
Before jumping into that, I thought I'd mention one of the speakers yesterday, this very nice lady, Beth Martins, I think was her name. She actually cited Crowley, Aleister Crowley. She said, as above, so below. So again, that's just one clear example of some of the stuff that's going on. They're pushing Crowley, right? Among other such beliefs. Crowley was known as the most sinister, the evilest man of the 20th century. There's rumors that, I think it's true, that he actually did participate in child and human blood sacrifice, and there are things that they did as part of like his, I won't go any further, but if you research his version of communion, go and research that if you've got the stomach for it. But I will not discuss that stuff on TNT. It's just unbelievable, some of the things that Crowley was involved with. But yeah, the this article from Politico, I think it needs to be discussed that the mainstream is speaking in such a way. What do you make of it?
I mean, right under the headline is here's your life in 2040 if the EU's climate plan works. I thought this at first when you showed this, I thought this was an expose. It was a warning about how dystopian it sounds, but it's actually a promotion of it. You're supposed to have so much guilt as as a regular person today with your carbon footprint that you're gonna seek out and appreciate these plans to basically absolve you of your sinful criminal ways. The subtitle is fewer steaks, a carbon Nutri-Score on food labels, bike shares galore, and incentives to downsize once your kids move out. And some of the stuff in here is, I mean, we warn about these things, but then they just come out and advertise it as a good thing. It's like they say, Europeans now cycle more and eat less. Rural areas are populated. They're envisioning the future. Okay, so they're talking as if it is 2040. Rural areas are populated by fewer cows on the ground and more electrical cables overhead. Wow, what a wonderful thought that is. Not a single coal miner is left in the EU, but green manufacturing jobs are booming. In short, a 90% cut by 2040 has required Europe to remodel its economy, alter its landscapes, and change its lifestyles. And it says, take a look at your fridge contents. Maybe there's emissions labeling on packaging, like a Nutri-Score, but for carbon intensity. Perhaps you bought those faux meat sausages because they were cheaper than the real thing. The introduction of emissions pricing for food has driven up meat prices. That's already happening in Canada for sure with our carbon tax. Meat is just outrageously expensive in Canada currently. I can't imagine how much worse it's going to be. And of course, it's to destroy farmers. It says farmers' income sources have also changed dramatically, with many taking advantage of the EU's new carbon removal market to earn money just for storing CO2 on their land, especially areas previously used for grazing or growing crops to feed animals. So they'll just pay you to destroy your family farm and to lose those vital skills to be able to create food, to create abundance, to do anything. You just allow them to grow slime in labs and sell it to you at outrageous prices. And there's so many things you could quote here, but it's definitely not true that that these fake meat products are better for the environment. There's been studies done on that as well. So I don't know what you all take away from this, but it just seems like a blatant advertisement for the collapse of civilization.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, they go further, right? They say some governments have introduced measures to halt the rise in living space for the average European as more people live alone, driving up demand for energy and materials. The new measures range from personal CO2 allowances to programs and tax incentives helping couples move into more compact housing once their kids have moved out. And they also say there's another trend that's likely to drive people into smaller or more crowded accommodation. It's like to drive people to condition them to live in a prison cell. Again, total neo-feudalism. Their obsession of this term of carbon, like quantifying everything now. Carbon is the new currency. It's I don't know how far we're gonna get into this system. Terry, real quick, any thought? You think we're gonna it's a ruse or what?
I think this is just to destabilize economies before they get more serious about depopulation.
All right, maybe we can get more into that on the other side. Terry will be with us. Hour 2, check out wolfpox.com and winterchristian.substack.com. You can check out his interview with James Dellingpole. And also, feel free to call in. We'll be right back.